I was just 7 when everything I knew about love, safety, and family disappeared. My mother died of an overdose in a cheap motel just outside Columbus, Ohio. No note, no warning. Just a half-empty bottle of pills and a final, unanswered cry for help. My father had vanished years before, one of those men who left when things got hard. After that, no one wanted me. Not really, except Claire Montgomery, my mother's older cousin. She lived alone in a beautiful home in upstate New York, wide windows, marble countertops, quiet halls. She was 32, successful, elegant, and terrifying. The state called her my foster guardian, but that was just paperwork. She wasn't a mother to me. Not in the way a child craves. Not in the way I needed Claire. Didn't hug me. She didn't kneel to look me in the eyes or ask if I was okay. Instead, she kept things organized. Meals were on time. My clothes were always clean. I had a warm bed and a stack of books. But warmth doesn't mean love. Her voice was calm, but distant, like she was always talking through glass. She never hit me or yelled, but it always felt like I was trespassing in her world. She was icy, poised, and heartbreakingly beautiful, like one of those women in old black and white movies. Who lights a cigarette and never flinches? She dated men, all of them older, rich, polished. None of them lasted long. I would watch from the stairs as they kissed her cheek, held her waist, whispered things she never repeated. I remember thinking how lucky they were, how close they got to something I could only orbit. I tried to be invisible. I stayed out of trouble, got good grades, never asked for too much. She never told me she was proud, never said I love you. Still, I stayed, hoping that one day she'd soften, that maybe, just once, she'd hold me like I mattered. But she never did. When I turned 18, I packed my things and left. No goodbye, no tears. I didn't even look back at the house as I drove. Away, I tried to start fresh. I took jobs in Boston, then Chicago. I dated girls who smiled at me and said sweet things, but I never stayed long. Something in me was broken. Or maybe something was unfinished. 5 years passed. Then, one cold November afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Claire's neighbor. Claire had suffered a stroke. Minor, but she needed help. She was alone. I told myself I owed her nothing. But that night, I found myself driving back to the house I once called home, heart pounding the whole way. She opened the door slowly. She looked older, but still breathtaking, silver hair tied up, blue eyes still sharp despite the fatigue. She didn't cry, just said, "You came." That was it. No apology, no warmth. But I saw something in her eyes that wasn't there before. Vulnerability, maybe even fear. I moved in temporarily, just until she got stronger. But from the first night, something felt off. The air between us was thick. The way she looked at me longer than she should have. The way her fingertips brushed mine when I passed her tea. It wasn't maternal. It wasn't innocent. I told myself I was imagining it, that it was nothing. But deep down, I felt something shift. And that's how it started. With silence, with unspoken words. With a house full of memories that never felt like mine. And a woman who raised me, but never treated me like her child. Asterisk moving back into. Claire's house felt like stepping into a dream I wasn't sure I ever wanted to remember. The scent of jasmine still lingered in the hallway. The same soft jazz played in the evenings. And the same rules quietly existed, spoken but always. Except this time, something was different. Claire wasn't the same woman I remembered. The stroke had slowed her down, softened her edges. Her once perfect posture now leaned ever so slightly when she walked. She still dressed with elegance cashmere. Sweaters, silk robes, lipstick, carefully applied, but her voice had changed. It had cracks now, like old vinyl. There were moments when her eyes searched mine like she was trying to find something she lost. Years ago, in those first few weeks, our conversations were stiff, mostly about medication, physical therapy, or what groceries to buy. But late at night, over glasses of wine and low music, she started opening up. We talked about life, loneliness, missed chances. One night, she looked at me across the kitchen island and said, "You're not that scared little boy anymore. You've grown into someone striking." Her eyes didn't flinch. Her words didn't stumble. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a burden in her house. I felt wanted, desired. That night stayed with me. Not because it was shocking, but because it felt familiar. Like I'd been waiting for her to see me all along. I told myself it was harmless. She was probably just emotional, grateful, but things kept shifting. Her hand would rest on mine a little too long. Her compliments came softer, more intimate. "You smell like cedar and something warm," she whispered once as I passed her a blanket. One morning, I came out of the shower with a towel around my waist, and she looked at me like she'd forgotten I was once the boy she raised. I knew I should have left. I told myself I would. But I DI'd single quotes too. One evening, we were watching an old black and white movie too, Have and Have Not. I think Candy made some joke that made her laugh, really laugh. Her head tilted back, her hand touched my thigh, and then everything went still. She leaned in, slowly. I could have pulled away. I didn't. Our lips touched just once, soft, unsure, but electric. When it ended, we just looked at each other. No apology, no shock. Just silence. Something had changed, and we both knew it. We didn't talk about it the next day. We acted like nothing happened. But the air was charged now. Every word had weight. Every touch meant more. I couldn't stop thinking about her voice in the dark. The way she bit her lip when she was lost in thought, the shape of her collarbone under that ivory nightgown. I wasn't just drawn to her, I was consumed, and she knew it. One night, she stood in the doorway of my room and whispered, "I never wanted a child, but I wanted you close. I just didn't know how to love you, till now." And I let her in, into my bed. Into me, it should have felt wrong, but it didn't. It felt like something that had been building for years, buried under pain, confusion, and silence. Something twisted and beautiful. Something we couldn't explain, but couldn't ignore. We crossed a line that night. It's one neither of us could ever come back from. What started as a single kiss had quickly turned into something deeper, something we couldn't stop. Claire and I lived like ghosts in that house, avoiding daylight. Hiding everything behind closed doors, but completely entangled in the dark. I would cook her breakfast, help her with therapy, and talk to her like nothing had changed. But at night, when the world was quiet and no one was watching, we'd fall into each other like waves crashing against rocks. It wasn't just sex, it was something more, something messy and intimate and full of unspoken pain. I told myself I was old enough to make my own choices. She wasn't my mother. She never acted like one. She raised me, yes, but love, that was never part of it. Not until now. Still, I knew it couldn't last. Love like this, secret, forbidden. Complicated always comes with a cost, and that cost came on a rainy Sunday morning. When I found a dusty old box while cleaning out the attic, inside were letters, photographs, small memories stuffed away like forgotten sins. One envelope stood out. My name was written on it. The handwriting was shaky, messy, familiar. It was from my mother. I stared at the envelope for a long time. Before opening it, I felt sick even before I read the first word. If you're reading this, it means Claire never told you the truth. My hands shook as I kept reading. My mother's voice echoed off the page like she was whispering from the past. She said Claire had made her give me up, that she had promised to raise me not out of love, but out of control, out of some twisted competition. Claire couldn't have children of her own, and when she saw my mom falling apart, she saw an opportunity. She didn't take you in because she cared, the letter read. She did it to win. She always hated me. And I think deep down, she hated you too. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to, but the truth had a way of making everything suddenly make sense. The coldness, the way she never treated me like a son. And now, the way she looked at me like I was a man she desired, not someone she helped raise. Had this all been a lie, a long, slow manipulation? I confronted Claire that night. Huh? I held the letter in my hands, and she didn't even look surprised. Just stood there, barefoot in her silk robe, eyes locked on mine. I never lied about how I felt. She said softly, "I just didn't think you'd ever understand." "Understand what?" I snapped. "That you used me? That you took a broken child and turned him into this?" She stepped closer and her voice cracked. "I didn't plan this. I didn't mean for us to happen. But you were never a child to me." "Not really. You became something else. And God help me, I loved you." I walked out. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The house felt like a trap. The walls were too tight. The woman I had loved had stolen my past and twisted my present. I didn't know who I was anymore. Was I a victim? A partner? Or just a boy who had been lost from the start? I packed my bags that same night. I didn't say goodbye and I never looked back. But even as the city lights swallowed me whole, I couldn't shake the memory of her lips, her voice, the way she whispered my name like a secret she never wanted the world to hear. 2 years passed. Life moved on. Or at least that's what I told myself. I lived in a small apartment in Seattle, kept to myself, worked long hours, dated a few women who smiled like the sun but never reached me deep enough to matter. I tried to forget Claire. I really did. But some people aren't easy to forget, especially when they broke you in ways no one else could. I hated what we became. I hated myself for loving her. And still, I missed her more than I should have. There were nights I'd wake up from dreams of her voice in my ear, her fingers tracing my spine, the way she looked at me like I was the only thing in the world she couldn't control. I kept the letter from my mother in a drawer I never opened. Some truths don't offer closure. They just sit there quietly wrecking you from the inside. Then, one evening, the middle of February, I got a call from a hospital in New York. Claire was dying. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. The nurse said she'd been asking for me by name. I said no at first. I couldn't face her, not after everything. But that night, as snow piled on my windowsill and the world turned silent again, I realized something. I still needed to see her. Not to forgive. Not to fall back in. Just to understand. She was in hospice care when I arrived. Smaller now, pale, fragile. But her eyes, those unforgettable eyes, were still hers. When she saw me, she smiled in that slow, knowing way. "You came," she whispered, voice barely a breath. I sat beside her bed, not sure what to say. She didn't apologize. Claire was never the kind of woman who begged for mercy. But she looked at me like a woman who had loved in a way the world would never accept, and never understand. "I didn't plan for any of it," she said, "but I couldn't stop it either. You were the only person who ever truly saw me. And I saw you too before anyone else did." "I needed a mother," I said quietly. "I wasn't built for that," she replied, tears welling. "But I loved you, just not the way you needed." We sat in silence for a long time. I held her hand. She was cold but still holding on like she didn't want to leave just yet. I didn't forgive her that day. I don't know if I ever fully will, but something inside me softened. Because love, real, painful, messy love, doesn't always look the way it should. And even if ours was wrong in every way, it had been real. Claire passed 3 weeks later. No funeral. Just a letter and a small box left for me. Inside was a gold ring with a single blue sapphire. And a note written in her old handwriting. "You were never mine to keep. But you were always the part of me I loved most." I cried harder than I had in years. Sometimes the people who raise us don't give us the love we wanted. Sometimes they give us something else, something confusing, tangled, unforgettable. Claire didn't love me like a mother should. She loved me like a woman who had lost too much and found something forbidden in the wreckage. It wasn't right. But it was real, and no matter how far I go, I'll always carry her with me. Some love stories aren't meant to be told, but this one changed me forever.